right. Yeah, can Carmine tell us a little bit about how it started, the Wrestling Eye magazine?
I just started as a photographer for the magazine, and the old editor, Mike Lou, just happened to unexpectedly pass away. And I just
after you cut his brake
my
lines?
application. Good job. I tell you what, I do have not necessarily a question, but rather than voicing my opinion out loud and showing a lack of respect for any of the individuals up here, what I would like to do is to propose a question. And that is, the way that professional wrestling has changed so much. Of course, we've tried to, past hour here, try to discuss this in depth, but of course, wrestling has changed so much to the days of Mr. Rogers and Mr. Thesz. It's like night and day as it is right now. And you think, Jimmy, you think that quite possibly on a mainstream level, I'm not talking about what Mr. Goodhart does, or Mr. Coraluzzo does, which I most definitely commend because I love wrestling, but can that be reversed? In other words, does anyone here think that professional wrestling can actually be viewed once again as a respectable spectacle, if you will?
Yeah, it wouldn't be no spectacle to it because the basic human emotions do not change. People like to laugh, people hate to cry, but they do. People get mad, people get happy. You present something that people can believe. You present a few guys that they can look up to as heroes, as people they'd like to be like. You present a few guys that people say those are crummy bastards. And you have them wrestle each other. And you have them wrestle instead of daggum fly around the ring with wings on or something like that. And you have a good match, and the people don't know who's going to win until it's over, and they get a kick out of that, and they come back and pay to see it again. But basic human emotions.
With the way that, of course, this is as an example of what Vince McMahon has made the business today.
Vince McMahon hadn't made the business. If Vince McMahon has made his business that, and by the fact that nobody else knew what they were doing, nobody else has a business. Vince McMahon is not doing professional wrestling. Vince McMahon's doing sports entertainment. He'll tell you that, and like I said, it's like the Harlem Globetrotters. But people are going to go to see that stuff regardless, just because it's whatever kick they get out of it, especially kids. But people will also go to see professional wrestling, and it'll be more adults. It'll be more people that know what they like to see. It'll be more people who can understand a little more complicated storyline than a big guy with cartoon arms with his face painted up. It'll be people who want to see something that has some credibility to it.
What do you think the majority of wrestling fans in America today want to see? Vince McMahon's type of wrestling, or the type of wrestling that most of us that prefer to see, the old style?
Well, you said wrestling fans. Wrestling fans are going to want to see wrestling. WWF fans are going to want to see the WWF.
There's people out here. How many of you folks prefer WWF?
No.
Anybody here like WWF?
We do not. When the superstar was there, maybe.
Yeah. Hey, I tell you what, wait a minute. You talk about small percentage. Vince McMahon has the only show in town by default because nobody else is smart enough to keep up with him. That doesn't mean that people don't want to see this stuff. 10 years ago, at Starrcade 83, like Dave Meltzer wrote in his bulletin not several months ago, there were 50,000 people watching Starrcade. There were 20,000 people in Minneapolis. There were 10,000 people in Atlanta. Reunion Arena was sold out. They had a card in Memphis. They had a card in Continental. They had a card in Florida. And everybody had made the effort to leave their home, go out, buy a ticket, park their car, and pay to see wrestling. And there wasn't a cartoon bunch of bullshit in the bunch of it except your normal wrestling angles, which everybody enjoyed because they liked seeing it. But it wasn't making everybody look like a bunch of clowns. And if you go 20 years farther back, then Buddy Rogers and Lou Thesz were selling out St. Louis like we've said already 15 times, but they daggum did it. Okay? And everybody else in the business at that time was drawing big crowds. Nobody, in the history of professional wrestling, the live crowds have never been as low as they are today. Am I right or am I wrong?
What you're saying
Across
is,
the country. What I'm saying is Vince McMahon's got the only show in town, and people are going to see that stuff just because they like that. But the people who want to go and see wrestling matches ain't got nowhere to go, so they're staying goddamn home.
Very small percentage.
Very small percentage. There was 100,000 people at wrestling matches 10 years ago. Now there's 5,000 in one night and shit on the rest.
Vince McMahon has made the business. It's a cartoon now, and I think possibly
you're agreeing with me now.
It's going to have to be accepted about what it is right now.
But in 1963, if Buddy can correct me if I'm wrong, in Kaminsky Park, there was, what, 63,000 people? 38,000 people? It was the largest crowd of all time, and there was nobody getting television in Florida. 42,000. I mean, and there was the guy that was on top, and that was done because people really wanted to know who was going to win, Pat O'Connor or Buddy Rogers. Now when people watch a pay-per-view, they don't go to the Garden anymore because they know there's not going to be a title change in Madison Square Garden. They got to wait to see a pay-per-view or something big. When these fellas wrestled, they went to see who was going to win the match.
They don't.
And I think that that's...
So now the big question is Randy really going to marry Elizabeth tomorrow night?
And hey, and I'm not just talking about classic wrestling. These guys were classic wrestlers. Superstar Billy Graham over there was more of a flamboyant showman, but he wasn't a daggum guy that went out there and looked like a complete moron like they're making guys do today. And in Tennessee, everybody knocked Tennessee. Tennessee never did this outrageous bullshit that TBS is doing now, but everybody knocked Tennessee. But the people there that went to the matches believed in their heroes, and they hated the daggum guys that they hated, and they wanted to see them fight. And they believed what they were doing when they did it because they had
So why did they go? They went because they wanted to see certain guys win and certain guys
Exactly.
lose. They went for the basic reasons why most people go to see sports. They don't go to see Randy marry Elizabeth. They don't go to see Sid Vicious referee a match.
But obviously they are, because SummerSlam, of course, is going to make millions of dollars. If the people go to see the attraction, not the
McFly! McFly! Wait a minute, I'm agreeing with you. I'm not saying that your Uncle Vince ain't gonna make $1 million. What I'm saying is that Vince has the only show that anybody can go to see because nobody else is doing wrestling. The WWF is always gonna draw and always gonna make money, and people are always gonna want to watch it. But there's a lot of other people that want to see other stuff that just don't have anywhere to go. That's the point.
Jimmy, you feel that overexposure on TV is killing it too?
Sure, overexposure of this kind, I wouldn't want to see my mother if she was on TV doing the shit that they're doing.
Who is doing wrestling?
You know,
Who is wrestling?
Joel, Dennis, some independents,
That's it.
and there's nothing
That's
else.
it.
And
That's
in
it.
Memphis, they're still doing a little bit, but they ain't got no talent. Here's what I'm saying. I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to let everybody else talk because I just get carried away.
And then we're going to box it out. in the
Yes,
hallway.
if, for example, you go to see a magician, you've heard this one, you go to see a magician, and he makes a battleship disappear, and you believe that he made that battleship disappear, then you're going to go every single time because it's the daggummest thing you've ever seen in your life. Now, if you think there's a trick to this, but I don't know what it is, then you're going to go see that guy make that battleship disappear every single time you can until you figure it out. But if somebody comes up to you and he said, okay, they slide the mirror up here, the smoke comes out, this is how he does it, the whole thing, you're going to go back one more time, you're going to say, yep, that's how he does it, and then you're going to wait for him to make the Statue of Liberty disappear, something bigger and better. That's what they've done now. Nobody believes what's going on, so they go to see one match, and then they wait for something bigger and better, and if it takes a year, that's how long it is before they come back. And that's the whole problem. They don't come anymore to see people win and lose, and to see something they can believe in. They come to see a daggum show just like they go to see John, and I'll tell you something else about John Wayne movies. People go, well, all the Indians John Wayne shot weren't really dead. Well, yeah, but they didn't get up while John was riding off in the sunset and patting each other on the back. They exposed the shit on their own program. That's what I'm saying. Good night.
What's going to change that?
Hey, wait, let me say one thing. I'm going to change the subject a second.
Okay.
What's going to change that?
A lot of people out here are never going to have the opportunity again to see 3 former world champs in one room. I think he's going to try to get some questions in.
I want everyone to ask the champions a question, but I have something I want to pose to Dave, and this will lose on something you just said, Jim. People will go back to the arenas when there's something to see, perhaps. Ric Flair most likely is going to join the World Wrestling Federation and take on Hulk Hogan. Dave, how do you think this match? First of all, is anybody here going to go? Would you pay a ticket to see that match?
Just to see Ric Flair. Just to see Ric Flair.
But Flair is
Supposed to be fighting the Ultimate Warrior.
Just to see Ric Flair, yes.
You have a lot of Ric
Against
Flair
the
fans.
Ultimate Warrior.
I would go just to see Ric Flair. Because in my eyes, that's a true wrestling champion. And what they did to him was disgusting.
Right.
That's not fair. That's a champion.
Right.
Dave, how do you think Hogan Flair affect the wrestling business?
Well, as far as I think that, and it's already happened, and I think we all are almost like in unison on this one. I think that the Flair leaving was, I don't want to say the final nail in the coffin, but it was a sizable nail in the coffin of World Championship Wrestling, because to the general public, and I'm not talking about the people in this room, they look at it, and this is not what happened, but they look at it as, geez, this company was not, was not willing to spend the money, or was not willing to go the extra mile to keep its best wrestler, and Vince McMahon got him. They assume Vince McMahon paid more money, and it's like, well, whoever pays more money obviously has the best product, which isn't so, but that's what the people will look at, and so therefore I think it really, for a lot of people's perceptions, it was like, if they had a question, it kind of removed a big question.
Let me ask you a question, Dave.
Yes.
Do you think that the popular perception now among the average wrestling fan is that the World Wrestling Federation is the major league of wrestling?
Absolutely.
The casual fan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, how do you think that situation can be corrected and changed?
Well, it would take someone with a ton of money and a ton of patience to do something completely different. And even then, of course, there's no guarantee. Right. But it would take a ton of time. Yeah, that's a ton of patience.
The fans would have to be re-educated.
Absolutely.
That they're not going to go see bullshit.
You can't re-educate.
Let me ask you one final question. Do you think Ric Flair is going to have Ric Flair quality matches in the WWF, or is he going to become like Rick Steamboat, who vanishes? I don't know if you've seen his matches, but I look at Rick Steamboat in the WWF, and I don't see Rick Steamboat. I see some dopey guy in a dragon costume.
It's Vince McMahon's call.
Right.
It's whatever he wants.
Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, it seems like Vince McMahon has the most money to control these wrestlers with, though. You know, say if I was Ric Flair, right? I would, I'd probably go where the money, they spend.
Well, any athlete's going to go where the money is. The whole point is you need, for someone to compete with a Vince McMahon, you need someone, obviously, and this is in any business, you need someone with the money to be able to battle it. If you don't have any money, you can't go up against someone who has all this money and expect to win. It's just impossible.
It's kind of sad, though, because, like Mr. Cornette was saying, want to see quality, real wrestling promotion. It seems like Titan Sports, they can control whatever they want because they have the money.
Yeah, but you know the funny thing? 20 Vince McMahons don't have half the money of one Ted Turner. Just remember that.
Right. Yeah. But Ted Turner doesn't give a damn shit.
That's right. That's right, but that's the point. Vince McMahon's not the richest guy in the world, and he's not even the richest guy in the wrestling business, but the other guy doesn't care about
He's a
wrestling.
marketing genius, Vince McMahon.
He's the only one who does it right.
He's the only one who markets it correctly in this
He can
country.
do what he wants.
Absolutely.
But do you think the wrestling fan can be re-educated? I remember when I was growing up,
Absolutely.
and I watched Buddy Rogers wrestle. To me, the most important thing in my life when I was a young kid was hoping that Buddy Rogers got defeated. Only because now. I think that's what he wanted. That's what he wanted.
The only thing that has to happen is instead of the kids taking the parents got to start taking the kids again like they used to.
Yeah, right.
It's different.
But you want to take a kid to a show where the Ultimate Warrior strips sensational Sherry? I took my 7-year-old.
No, I'd rather let him stay home and watch HBO where there's all kind of shit going on, guys getting their heads cut off. If you're doing your job as a parent, a kid is not going to get harmed by seeing Sherry's boobs hanging out. If you're doing your job as a parent, a kid's not going to get harmed by anything he sees on television or by anything he sees in the movies.
That's a good point.
You can re-educate the fans, and the simple proof of that is Walt Disney every so many years comes out again with 101 Dalmatians, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
People go to see it.
The new kids go to see that, okay? And they're educated that that's what they want to see. If you take a wrestling promoter that would go back to the basics of the Thesz and the Buddy Rogers and the quality matches, and you did it long enough, which would take a lot of money and a lot of time, eventually those kids would say, that WWF is entertainment, but here's wrestling. Now, Dad, if I want to go see entertainment, take me to the WWF. Right. But if I want to know who's really the better man, then take me down the corner and see Buddy Rogers or Thesz or whoever their modern